The Galactic Council chamber was silent when Ambassador Vexenar stood up to speak. His translucent wings trembled as he looked at the gathered delegates from 47 star systems. For 300 cycles, the Council had kept peace across the galaxy, but today something terrible was about to happen. Esteemed members, I bring grave news from the Outer Rim. The Cauldron Empire is preparing to invade the Sol system. Vexenar's voice echoed through the massive chamber, and the delegates began murmuring among themselves. The Cauldron Empire was the newest member of the Council, and they were known for their military power. They had agreed to stop expanding their territory in exchange for trading rights and a seat at the Council table. Council Prime Yeloth leaned forward in her seat, and her crystalline body reflected the soft lights of the chamber. The human, she asked with curiosity in her voice. They have barely achieved faster than light travel, and their colony on Mars is very basic. Why would the Empire risk breaking the peace accords for such a primitive species? Vexenar's expression grew darker as he prepared to explain. Because, Emperor, Draxus believes they will become a threat within a generation. He has studied their historical records and their military conflicts and their capacity for violence. He wants to subjugate them now, while they are still weak and unable to defend themselves properly. A Quilarian security officer named Lieutenant Sendal stepped forward, holding a datapad in his upper appendages. We attempted to warn the Empire through diplomatic channels. We shared our observations of human behavior during first contact protocols. We documented their persistence and their refusal to surrender even in hopeless situations, and their disturbing creativity when cornered. The lieutenant paused and looked at the council members with concern. Their history shows they have survived ice ages and plagues and countless extinction-level events on their own world. Council Prime Yeloth tilted her head slightly as she processed this information. And what was the Empire's response to your warnings? Lieutenant Zendal's voice became quiet and almost disappointed. They laughed at us. High Commander Zarkoth called us cowards. He said no species that still uses chemical propulsion for space travel could possibly threaten an empire with quantum phase weapons and gravitational shields. He dismissed our concerns as the fears of a weak species. The council chamber erupted into heated debate, with delegates arguing loudly about what should be done. Some members wanted to intervene immediately, while others insisted on maintaining neutrality. They debated for hours about political consequences and economic impacts and military risks. In the end, politics and fear won over common sense and prudence. The council voted to issue a formal condemnation of the invasion, but they would take no military action. They would not risk war with the powerful Cauldron Empire over a species that had not even ventured beyond their own star system yet. As the session ended and delegates began filing out, Ambassador Vexenar stood alone at the large viewing port that overlooked the stars. His aide was a young Quilarian named Talis, who approached him cautiously from behind. Ambassador, do you truly believe the humans are as dangerous as our reports suggest? Vexenar remained silent for a long moment while he stared at the distant points of light in the darkness. I have studied their history very carefully, Talis. They fought 2 global wars using primitive kinetic weapons and chemical explosives. In one conflict, they detonated atomic weapons on their own planet, while knowing full well the consequences. They have survived every challenge their world has thrown at them. They create art and entertainment about their own destruction, and they call it fun. They have a saying that I find particularly troubling. What saying is that necessity is the mother of invention? Vexenar turned to face his young aide with worry clear in his eyes. The Empire is about to teach humanity a very dangerous necessity. They are about to show humans that they must innovate or die, and history shows that humans are very good at innovation when their survival is at stake. Meanwhile, across the galaxy in the Cauldron Empire's military command center, High Commander Zarkoth was reviewing the invasion plans with Emperor Draxus. The holographic display showed Earth floating in space as a beautiful blue and green jewel orbiting a yellow star. The planet looked peaceful and vulnerable. Our scouts report minimal orbital defenses, Zarkoth explained while pointing at various locations on the display. A few space stations and several hundred satellites and 1 small military outpost on their moon. Their largest warships are fusion-powered vessels that would take months to reach our position at the edge of their system. We can neutralize their infrastructure within hours of arrival. Emperor Draxus was a towering figure with dark scales covering his body, and 4 powerful arms crossed over his chest. "And their ground forces?" he asked in his deep, rumbling voice. "They are divided among competing nation-states." Zarkoth brought up data showing Earth's political divisions: primitive kinetic weapons and chemical propellants, and rudimentary tactical networks. "Our shock troops will face no meaningful resistance. Their soldiers still fight with bullets and explosives. It will be like crushing insects beneath our boots." "Excellent," Draxus said with satisfaction in his voice. "We shall take their homeworld first, and then their pathetic colonies. The humans will serve the Empire or they will perish. There is no third option. Prepare the fleet for immediate departure. I want to make an example of this species so that no other developing civilization dares to resist us in the future." As the massive Caldron Armada assembled at the edge of their territory, a small human exploration vessel called the Horizon's Edge was conducting a routine survey of an asteroid field near Jupiter. Commander Jake Morrison sat comfortably in the captain's chair while reviewing mineral composition data with his science officer, Lieutenant Amy Chen. The bridge was quiet except for the soft beeping of various instruments and the hum of the ship's systems. "Nothing valuable in this sector," Amy reported while studying her screens. "Should we move on to the next grid?" Before Jake could respond, an alarm suddenly screamed through the bridge. The ship's sensors went crazy and the lights shifted from normal white to emergency red. The tactical display lit up with dozens of contacts appearing out of nowhere. "What the hell?" Jake's co-pilot, Lieutenant Ben Hayes, frantically worked his console trying to make sense of the readings. Multiple vessels dropping out of faster than light travel. Massive energy signatures. "Commander, these aren't ours. These readings don't match any known human vessels." Jake felt his blood turn cold as the first images resolved on the main screen. The vessels were angular warships, and each one was larger than any human-made ship. They were arranged in perfect attack formation with weapon ports glowing with barely contained energy. Their hull markings were completely alien, and their design was unlike anything humanity had ever created. "Send an emergency message to Earth," Jake ordered while keeping his voice steady despite the fear rising in his chest. "Tell them we have company at Jupiter. Tell them the visitors don't look friendly. Include all sensor data and images. Send it with maximum priority on all channels." Amy's fingers flew across her console as she prepared the transmission. "Message sent, Commander. Earth should receive it in about 8 minutes." Jake stared at the alien fleet on his screen, knowing that everything was about to change. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe, and now they had their answer. They were not alone, and their new neighbors were bringing weapons instead of greeting cards. "Good," he said quietly. "Now let's hope they know what to do with the warning." The transmission from the Horizon's Edge reached Earth's United Defense Command in less than 8 minutes. Within 30 seconds of receiving Commander Morrison's data, every military installation on the planet went to full alert. Sirens wailed across military bases, and soldiers rushed to their posts, while commanders tried to understand what they were facing. Admiral Kate Brennan stood in the Situation Room deep beneath Colorado, and she was surrounded by holographic displays showing the enemy fleet's approach vector. The room was packed with military personnel from every nation that had contributed to Earth's space defense network. Everyone looked scared, but they were trying to stay professional. "Confirm those numbers," Kate demanded, even though she already knew the answer would be terrible. "Confirmed," Admiral replied, Major Carlos Ruiz, and his face was pale. 73 capital ships of unknown class. Hundreds of smaller vessels. They are maintaining formation at the edge of Jupiter's orbit, and they are not responding to our hails." "Have they responded to our communication attempts at all?" Kate asked. "Nothing, Admiral. We have broadcast in every frequency and every mathematical language sequence we developed for first contact protocols. They are either ignoring us completely or jamming our signals. Either way, it does not look good for us." General Alan Brooks from the Air Force Tactical Command stepped forward with a grim expression. "Admiral, our entire space-capable fleet consists of 12 patrol vessels and the ESS Washington. Even with our ground-based railguns and missile platforms, we are outnumbered 50-1. This is not a fight we can win with conventional tack." Tix Kate stared at the display showing Earth's defenses, and they looked pathetic compared to the alien armada. Humanity had been so focused on exploration and colonization that military development in space had taken a back seat. They had weapons, yes, but nothing designed to fight a fleet of this magnitude. What about the horizon's edge, she asked quietly. Still in the asteroid field, Major Ruiz reported. Morrison says the alien fleet has not detected them yet. He is maintaining radio silence and running his ship cold to avoid detection. Kate made a quick decision. Tell Morrison to stay hidden and observe everything. Get me a line to the Secretary General immediately. We need to address the planet, and we need to do it now before panic spreads. 20 minutes later, every screen on Earth carried the same broadcast. Secretary General Liu Wei stood before cameras with 7 billion people watching and waiting. Citizens of Earth, we are not alone in the universe. Contact has been made with an alien species, and we are under threat. His voice was calm but firm. I will not lie to you. The situation is grave, but humanity has faced extinction before, and we have always survived. We will survive this too. As panic began to spread, across the globe, the Caldron fleet made its move toward Earth. Emperor Draxus was commanding from his flagship Dominion, and he gave the order to advance with confidence. All vessels proceed to Earth orbit. Eliminate military installations first and then communications infrastructure. Prepare ground forces for planetary assault. Show these primitives the power of the Empire. The fleet surged forward, and their quantum drives propelled them across millions of kilometers in just minutes. Earth's defensive satellites tracked their approach but could do nothing to stop them. The aliens were coming, and they were coming fast. But Admiral Brennan had not been sitting idle while the public broadcast played. She had been coordinating with military commanders worldwide and preparing Earth's defenses. If humanity was going to die today, they would die fighting with everything they had. Fire everything we have, she ordered. From hidden silos across Earth, nuclear missiles launched by the hundreds. Railgun installations on the moon opened fire and sent tungsten rods streaking through space at incredible speeds. The ESS Washington, which was humanity's first true warship, powered up its experimental plasma cannons and charged directly at the alien fleet in a desperate attack run. The Cauldron Point. Defense systems destroyed the missiles easily, like swatting insects. Their gravitational shields deflected the railgun projectiles harmlessly into empty space. When the Washington opened fire, its plasma bolts splashed uselessly against the alien shields without causing any damage. Pitiful High Commander Zarkoth muttered from his command post. Their weapons cannot even scratch our hull plating. This will be over quickly. But then something unexpected happened that nobody had planned for. 3 nuclear missiles that appeared to be destroyed by point defense systems suddenly detonated simultaneously just outside the shield perimeter of a Caldron destroyer. The electromagnetic pulse from the coordinated blasts overloaded the ship's shield generators for exactly 2.3 seconds. In that tiny window, a railgun, round from the lunar installation, punched through the unprotected hull. The destroyer did not explode, and the damage was minimal, but it proved something important. The aliens could be hurt. Commander Jake Morrison was still watching from his hidden position in the asteroid field, and he saw everything happen. Amy, he said urgently to his science officer, did you see that? The shield went down for a moment. Amy Chen was already analyzing the data. The electromagnetic pulse disrupted it. Someone on Earth figured out the timing. If they can replicate that effect, they might have a chance. On Earth, in a bunker beneath the Pentagon, Lieutenant Sophie Grant stared at her screen in shock and disbelief. The experimental artificial intelligence she had been developing to coordinate missile strikes had found a pattern in the alien defense network. It was not much, but it was something real. Admiral Brennan, she called out. I can replicate that effect. But we need more missiles than we currently have in our arsenal. Kate looked at the young woman and then at the tactical display. The Washington was taking heavy fire and falling back toward Earth. 12 patrol vessels were already nothing but debris floating in space. They had minutes or maybe hours before the aliens began their bombardment of the planet. Then we make more missiles, Kate said grimly. Strip every chemical plant and every manufacturing facility. Get me the president on the line. We are about to militarize the entire planet and convert our economy to total war production. The Cauldron fleet continued its advance with confidence in their overwhelming superiority. But Zarkoth felt something like unease growing in his mind as he reviewed the combat data. The humans had drawn first blood, however minor, and their response had been immediate and coordinated and surprisingly creative for such a primitive species. Sir, one of his tactical officers reported. The human warship is retreating to their lunar orbit. Should we pursue and destroy it? No, Zarkoth decided. Let them watch as we take their homeworld. Send the first wave of landing craft to their largest military installations. We will crush their resistance on the ground and in space simultaneously. Alarms suddenly blared across the bridge. On the tactical display, thousands of new contacts appeared from Earth orbit. Not missiles this time, not warships. Civilian vessels, cargo haulers and mining ships and passenger transports. Every spacecraft humanity possessed was accelerating toward the Cauldron fleet. What are they doing? Zarkoth demanded in confusion. From the bridge of a converted ore hauler civilian pilot, Marcus Webb grinned fiercely at his crew of volunteers. They had loaded their cargo bays with every explosive they could find and turned off their transponders and set a collision course with the alien ships. Earth Defense gave us the coordinates, he announced over the open channel, connecting all the civilian ships. If we are going down today, we are taking some of these invaders with us. For Earth, his co-pilot Lisa Monroe shouted. Across the fleet of civilian vessels, the cry was repeated by hundreds of voices. For Earth. Hundreds of ships piloted by volunteers who knew they would never see their families again accelerated to ramming speed. They were farmers and miners and transport pilots. They were not soldiers, but they were willing to die like soldiers. The Cauldron Point defense systems fired frantically, but there were too many targets coming too fast. 3 civilian ships made it through the defensive fire and smashed into a Cauldron cruiser's shield generator, housing at full speed. The shields flickered and died. Railgun rounds from the moon found their mark. The cruiser split in two and began tumbling through space-trailing atmosphere and debris. In the Galactic Council chamber far away, Ambassador Vexnar watched the battle unfold through long-range sensors. His wings drooped in sorrow. They have been at war for less than an hour, he whispered to his aide. And already they sacrificed themselves without hesitation. This is what I tried to warn the Empire about. Talis stared at the display in horror and awe. The Empire has superior weapons and superior shields and superior numbers, but the humans fight as if they have already won. They fight as if defeat is simply not an option they will accept. That, Vexnar replied quietly, is exactly why we tried to warn them. Humans do not know how to surrender, and that makes them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The ruins of the Cauldron cruiser tumbled through space-trailing atmosphere and debris and bodies. Emperor Draxus stared at the tactical display in his command throne, and his 4 fists were clenched in rage. A handful of civilian craft and primitive kinetic weapons, and they have destroyed one of our cruisers. His voice echoed through the Dominion's bridge. Zarkoth explained this incompetence immediately. The High Commander bowed his head in shame. Sire, their tactics are completely illogical by any military standard. They sacrifice vessels worth millions of their currency for minimal strategic gain. Our predictive combat algorithms cannot account for such irrational behavior. They fight like cornered animals instead of thinking beings. Then adapt the algorithms, Draxus roared. And obliterate those civilian ships before they cause further damage to my fleet. But the civilian fleet had already scattered back toward Earth's orbit. They had bought precious time, and humanity was not wasting a single second of it. Every factory and every laboratory and every research facility on the planet had been commandeered for the war effort. In the Colorado Command Center, Admiral Brennan coordinated with military leaders across the entire planet. On her screen, she could see the frantic activity happening everywhere. Status report, she demanded. Major Ruiz called out updates as they came in from around the world. China has converted 3 automobile manufacturing plants to missile production. Russia is retrofitting cargo rockets with nuclear warheads. The European Space Agency is arming their satellites with whatever explosives they can fit. India is working on adapting their nuclear arsenal for space combat deployment. And Lieutenant Grant's artificial intelligence? Kate asked. She is teaching it every combat algorithm we have developed over centuries. It has already identified 17 weaknesses in the alien shield harmonics. If we can exploit even half of them, we might have a real chance. Admiral General Brooks interrupted with bad news. The Washington is reporting critical damage. Captain Paul Reeves is requesting permission to evacuate the crew before the ship breaks apart. Kate thought of Captain Reeves, who was a veteran of Earth's corporate space conflicts. He would never abandon his ship unless there was absolutely no other choice. Tell him negative, she decided. We need every weapon platform in space, even damaged ones. Have him fall back to the lunar base for emergency repairs. There is something else, Brooks continued grimly. The aliens have begun their landing operations. Drop pods are hitting military bases in North America and Asia and Europe simultaneously. Kate switched her display to show the ground situations. In Texas at Fort Hood, alien shock troops were engaging Army units in fierce combat. The footage was chaotic and violent, but one thing was absolutely clear. The Cauldron soldiers were devastating. Each alien soldier stood 7 feet tall and was heavily armored and equipped with energy weapons that could level entire buildings with single shots. They moved with precision and coordination that suggested centuries of military evolution and training, and yet somehow they were losing ground. Captain Nicole. Ford crouched behind the remains of a barracks building and her rifle was overheating from sustained fire. Around her, what remained of the 1st Cavalry Division fought with everything they had. They were outgunned and outmatched, but they refused to retreat. Rocket launcher left flank, she shouted. Private Danny Costa hefted the launcher onto his shoulder and fired. The rocket streaked toward an advancing Cauldron soldier and detonated against its energy shield. The shield held, but the alien stumbled backward from the impact. Shields are weakening, Sergeant Luis Ortega called out. Hit it again with everything. 3 more rockets fired simultaneously from different positions. The Cauldron's shield collapsed under the coordinated assault, and conventional bullets tore through its armor. The alien fell dead, but for every enemy they killed, 2 more emerged from the drop pods. Nicole knew they could not hold this position much longer. This is Captain Ford to all units, she broadcast. Execute Protocol Scorpion immediately. Repeat Protocol Scorpion. Her soldiers knew exactly what that meant. They had discussed it during the frantic planning session after the Secretary General's announcement. If they could not win, they would make the enemy pay dearly for every inch of ground. The division began a fighting retreat, but not before demolishing everything of value. Fuel depots exploded in massive fireballs. Armories were rigged with booby traps. Buildings were wired to collapse on top of advancing aliens. The Cauldron would capture Fort Hood, but they would capture smoking ruins. Across the planet, similar scenes played out at every battle site. The Cauldron were winning every single engagement, but the victories came at unexpected and terrible costs. Human forces used guerrilla tactics and scorched earth policies and suicide attacks that the aliens found completely incomprehensible. On the Dominion, tactical analysts presented their reports to Emperor Draxus with growing concern. One of them was a younger commander named Veltor who spoke very cautiously. Sire, the humans are not fighting to win battles. They are fighting to delay us and to cause maximum casualties and to make occupation as costly as possible. Our projections suggest that even with total military victory, we will need 3 times the garrison forces initially planned just to maintain control. Then we will send 3 times the forces, Draxus snarled. I will not be embarrassed by these primitives in front of the entire galaxy. But Veltor's analysis troubled the Emperor deeply. In just 3 hours of combat, the Empire had lost more soldiers and equipment than in the previous 5 conquest campaigns combined. And the humans showed absolutely no signs of surrender or negotiation. In space, Commander Morrison and his crew continued their observation from the hidden position in the asteroid field. Amy Chen had been running continuous scans of the alien vessels and building a comprehensive database of their technology. Jake, she said suddenly with excitement in her voice, I think I found something important. Their quantum drives emit a very specific radiation signature when they charge for a jump to faster than light speed. If we could plant a beacon near one of their ships, we could predict exactly when they are about to leave the system. Why would we want to know that? Ben Hayes asked with confusion. Because Amy explained carefully, if we know when they are jumping, we might be able to disrupt the process. These drives create temporary wormholes through space. If we introduce enough electromagnetic interference at exactly the right moment, the ship tears itself apart. Jake finished her thought. Amy, you are a genius. Can we transmit this data to Earth without being detected? If we boost the signal, maybe, Amy said, but it will definitely give away our position to the aliens. They will know exactly where we are. Jake looked at his small crew of just 5 people against an entire alien armada. The decision should have been difficult, but somehow it was not. Do it, he ordered. If this information saves Earth, our position does not matter anymore. Send everything we have learned. The transmission burst toward Earth at light speed. 12 minutes later, it reached Lieutenant Grant's artificial intelligence system. The AI processed the data in milliseconds and began formulating new attack plans immediately. Admiral Brennan received Grant's report with grim satisfaction. "How many missiles would we need for this attack?" "Hundreds," Grant replied. "And we would need to coordinate them within nanosecond precision. But Admiral, if we can take down even one of their capital ships using this method, it proves we can hurt them badly. It proves they are not invincible." "Then make it happen," Kate ordered. "And Lieutenant, what is the status of that crew that sent us this data?" Grant checked her screen and her expression fell. "The aliens detected their transmission. 3 destroyers are breaking formation to intercept them. They have maybe 10 minutes. Kate closed her eyes briefly. Morrison and his crew had just signed their death warrants to give Earth a fighting chance. On the horizon's edge, alarms shrieked as the Cauldron ships approached rapidly. Jake activated the intercom to address his crew one final time. "Everybody, this is the commander. We have company incoming and they are not here to talk. I want you to know that what we did today matters. Earth has our data. They have a real chance now," he paused. "It has been an honor serving with all of you," Amy Chen called from the science station. "Jake, we could use the ship's emergency beacon. It is designed to create a quantum distortion for rescue operations." In the middle of an asteroid field, Jake understood immediately what she was suggesting. The distortion would destabilize the asteroid's orbits. "We would create a massive debris field. A fast-moving debris field right in their path," Amy confirmed. Ben Hayes was already plotting the course on his console. "I can get us to the densest cluster in 90 seconds. But we will not be able to jump clear before the asteroids start moving. We will be caught in it too." Jake looked at his crew and each of them was nodding. They had made their choice when they sent the transmission. "Then let us make it count," he said. Amy charged the beacon. "Ben, get us in position. Everybody else, make your peace with whatever you believe in." As the horizon's edge dove deeper into the asteroid field with 3 alien destroyers in pursuit, Jake Morrison allowed himself one final thought, of Earth and of humanity, and of everything they were fighting to preserve. The beacon activated and space twisted, and billions of tons of rock began to move at deadly speeds. The 3 Cauldron destroyers pursuing the horizon's edge never saw it coming. The asteroid field that had been stable for millions of years suddenly transformed into a chaotic storm of deadly projectiles. Rocks the size of buildings and some even larger were accelerated by the quantum distortion and smashed through shields and hulls with devastating force. 2 destroyers were obliterated, instantly in massive explosions. The 3rd managed to emergency jump away, but its hull was breached in 17 places and it was trailing atmosphere and bodies into the endless void of space. The Ingu horizon's edge tumbled through space, battered and broken, but somehow still intact. On the bridge, Jake Morrison coughed blood and checked his crew's status through blurry vision. Amy Chen was unconscious but breathing. Ben Hayes had a broken arm but was already trying to restore ship systems with his good hand. The other 2 crew members were injured but alive. "We are dead in space," Ben reported through gritted teeth in pain. "Life support is failing and engines are completely gone and the hull will not survive another hit from anything. But we are alive," Jake said, and he almost laughed despite the pain. "We just took down 2 alien warships with rocks and asteroids. Amy is going to be so proud when she wakes up." Back on Earth, the footage of the destroyer's destruction rippled through military networks like wildfire. Humanity had found another weapon that worked. Ingenuity and environmental exploitation, and using the universe itself against their enemies. Admiral Brennan immediately ordered a strategic shift in their approach. "Get me every mining operation and every asteroid tug and every piece of equipment we have in the belt. If rocks can kill their ships, we are going to give them an avalanche they will never forget." But the Cauldron Empire was adapting too and learning from their losses. Emperor Draxus was enraged by the loss of 5 capital ships to what he considered primitive tactics. He authorized the use of siege weapons that had been held in reserve. "Reduce their major cities to ash," he commanded with cold fury. "Make an example that will break their spirit once and for all. Show them the price of resistance." High Commander Zarkoth felt something like fear form in his primary stomach. "Sire, orbital bombardment of population centers violates the Galactic Council's rules of engagement. We could face sanctions or even military intervention from other species. The Council is weak and cowardly." Draxus spat with contempt. "They will condemn us in words and do nothing with actions. Besides, this war will be over before they can even mobilize their forces. Now carry out my orders immediately." The siege platforms began charging their gravitational weapons and preparing to rain destruction on Earth's largest cities. In the Colorado Command Center, alarms blared as sensors detected the massive energy buildup. Impact sites confirmed, Major Ruiz reported, and his voice was hollow with despair. New York and Beijing and Mumbai and London and Sao Paulo. They are targeting population centers. Billions of people are about to die. Admiral Brennan felt her heart sink into her stomach. They had no defense against weapons of that magnitude. Billions would die in the first strike, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Time to impact, she asked quietly. 30 minutes, Admiral. Kate looked at the faces around her. Soldiers who had fought impossible odds for hours and watched friends die and sacrificed everything they had. And now it was all for nothing. Get a message to all units, she said quietly. Tell them we are proud of them. Tell them they fought with honor. Tell them. Admiral Lieutenant Grant interrupted, and her eyes were wide with sudden inspiration. I have an idea. It is completely insane, but it might work. We might be able to stop this. Kate turned to her. I am listening, Sophie. Tell me everything. The alien siege weapons use gravitational collapse to generate their destructive force, Grant explained rapidly. They are basically creating miniature black holes that destabilize on impact. But the process requires massive power. Buildup and the targeting systems need absolutely perfect calculations to work. So what can we do about it, Kate asked. What if we move the targets, Grant said. The room fell completely silent. General Brooks spoke first. Move the targets. Sophie, we are talking about cities with millions of people. We cannot just move cities, no, not the cities, Grant said quickly. The planet itself. Or at least change its gravitational signature enough to throw off their targeting solutions by even a fraction. Kate stared at her in disbelief. That is impossible. We do not have technology that could. But they do. Grant interrupted. Every one of those siege platforms is generating a massive gravitational field right now. If we could trigger them to fire simultaneously, in a coordinated pattern not at Earth, but at each other's gravitational fields, we could create an interference pattern that would disrupt their own targeting systems. Kate finished the thought. Lieutenant, you are talking about hacking alien weapons platforms in 30 minutes. That is impossible. 28 minutes now, Grant corrected. But Admiral, my artificial intelligence has been analyzing their systems for hours. I think I can do it. I need you to trust me right now. Kate looked at the countdown timer. They had no other options left. Do it, she ordered. Everyone give her whatever support she needs. This is our last chance. For the next 25 minutes, Lieutenant Sophie Grant performed what would later be called the greatest hacking achievement in human history. Her artificial intelligence that the technical staff had nicknamed Oracle infiltrated the Cauldron Tactical Network through captured communication protocols. The aliens' quantum encryption was incredibly sophisticated, but Oracle had one critical advantage. It had been designed by a species that had survived its own cyber warfare era. Humanity had centuries of experience in digital combat and fighting viruses and hackers and rogue artificial intelligence threats. They knew every trick and every backdoor and every vulnerability that came with networked systems. Oracle found a weakness in the Cauldron network security. The aliens had never faced an enemy that fought in digital space. Their protocols assumed only physical threats and not data intrusion. I am in, Grant announced. Uploading the firing solution now. Everyone hold your breath. On the Cauldron siege platforms, automated systems received what appeared to be legitimate targeting data from the flagship Dominion. Operators saw nothing unusual in their displays. The gravitational weapons charged to full capacity and prepared to fire on schedule. Weapons discharge in 10 seconds, an operator reported to Zarkoth. All platforms locked on target and ready. Zarkoth watched the countdown with grim satisfaction. This would end the human resistance. They would see their cities burn and finally understand the futility of fighting the Empire. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. The siege platforms fired, but not at Earth. The gravitational weapons discharged, at angles calculated by Oracle, and created intersecting gravitational waves that collided in the space between the platforms and the planet. Space itself seemed to ripple and twist. The gravitational interference pattern created a temporary distortion field that deflected the weapons' energy back toward their sources. 3 siege platforms were destroyed instantly and torn apart by their own weapons. The others shut down in emergency protocols and their systems were too damaged to continue operations. On the Dominion, chaos erupted across every station. Alarms blared as systems crashed and rebooted. Tactical displays went dark and then flickered back to life, showing corrupted data. "We have been hacked," a technician shouted in panic. "The humans are inside our network. They are in our systems." Emperor Draxus roared in fury and disbelief. "Impossible. They do not have quantum computing. They cannot possibly." "They did it anyway," Sire Veltor reported grimly. "And that is not all. They have used our own network to transmit their virus to 17 ships. We are losing tactical coordination across the fleet." In the Colorado Command Center, cheers erupted as the siege platforms went dark. Admiral Brennan grabbed Lieutenant Grant and pulled her into a fierce hug. "You beautiful genius," she breathed. "You just saved billions of lives. You just saved the world." But Grant was already back at her console and her expression was intense with concentration. "Admiral Oracle has found something else. The aliens' communication network is completely vulnerable now. We cannot control their ships directly, but we can listen to everything they are saying. Every order and every battle plan and every weakness they discuss." Kate's eyes widened with understanding. "Show me everything. Show me all of it." Across the fleet, the Caldron commanders struggled desperately to regain control of their systems, but the damage was done. Humanity had proven they could strike at the Empire in ways conventional warfare never could. On the half, destroyed Horizon's Edge Jake Morrison, and his crew listened to the captured alien transmissions, with growing hope filling their hearts. Their sacrifice had mattered. The data they provided had given Earth the tools to fight back. Jake Amy Chen said weakly as medical nanites worked to repair her injuries. "Are we winning?" Jake looked at the tactical display showing the alien fleet in complete disarray, and then at Earth, still blue and green and alive and fighting. "We are surviving," he replied, "and for humanity that is the same thing as winning." The war entered its second day with humanity still defiant, but the situation remained desperate. The Cauldron Empire, despite all its losses, still commanded overwhelming force. Emperor Draxus, however, was no longer certain of victory. In his private chambers aboard the Dominion, he reviewed casualty reports with growing unease. 8 capital ships destroyed or disabled, 43 smaller vessels lost, 17 siege platforms offline, over 15,000 soldiers dead on the ground, and the humans showed absolutely no signs of surrender. Veltor entered the chamber and his movements were cautious. "Sire, we have completed our analysis of the human tactics." "Speak," Draxus commanded. "They are using what their military doctrine calls asymmetric warfare. They avoid direct confrontation where we are strongest and strike where we are weakest. Their cyber warfare capabilities were underestimated by a factor of 10. Their willingness to sacrifice individuals for collective survival exceeds any species in recorded Galactic Council history. Are you suggesting we cannot win?" Draxus asked, and his voice was dangerous. "No, sire. We can still win through attrition. But the cost will be severe, and the occupation afterwards will be." Veltor hesitated. "Problematic. Explain immediately." "The humans are broadcasting their resistance across all frequencies. They want the galaxy to see them fighting. Several council members have begun to question our invasion publicly. Ambassador Vexnar has called for an emergency session to discuss sanctions against us." Draxus slammed a fist against his console. "The Council fears the humans now when hours ago they dismissed them as primitive. Perhaps," Veltor said very carefully, "that is precisely the point. The humans have proven they are not primitive. They are young, but they adapt at a frightening rate. Our combat algorithms predict that if this war continues for more than a week, they will achieve technological parity in key areas. If it continues for a month, they may actually surpass us." The Emperor stared at his commander. "You believe we should withdraw? I believe we should offer terms, subjugate them diplomatically rather than militarily. Bring them into the Empire as a vassal state with limited autonomy. They will accept because they must. But we avoid a prolonged war that could destabilize our position in the Council and drain our resources." On Earth, Admiral Brennan listened to similar advice from her own officers. General Brooks laid out the grim statistics. "We have held them for 36 hours, but we are running out of everything. Missiles and railgun ammunition and people. The lunar base is under siege. Mars colony has gone completely dark, and the civilian casualty count is in the millions. What are you suggesting? Kate asked, though she knew the answer. That we negotiate while we still have some leverage. They want to subjugate us, not exterminate us. If we surrender now, we can save billions of lives and maybe preserve some degree of autonomy. Kate looked around the command center. Exhausted faces and wounded personnel still working their stations and displays, showing Earth's defensive network crumbling. Brooks was right. They could not win militarily, but then Lieutenant Grant spoke up. Admiral, I need to show you something important. She brought up a holographic display showing data captured from the alien network. Oracle has been analyzing their communications. The Empire is fracturing. Their commanders are arguing about the cost of the invasion. Their logistics are strained. And most importantly, the Galactic Council is watching everything. So what does that mean? Kate asked. It means they care about their reputation, Grant explained. The Council has rules about warfare and about conduct and about treatment of developing species. The Empire has violated several of these rules already. If we can prove they are not just conquering us but committing atrocities, the Council might intervene. Captain Nicole Ford, who had been brought in from Fort Hood to provide ground perspective, leaned forward. Are you suggesting we provoke them into worse behavior? I am suggesting we document everything and make sure the galaxy sees it, Grant said. We are not fighting for military victory anymore. We are fighting for moral authority. Admiral Brennan felt a chill run down her spine. It was a desperate strategy, and one that would cost countless lives. But it might be their only hope. Do it, she ordered. Record everything. Broadcast everything. Make the galaxy watch what the Empire does to us. The strategy worked better than anyone had anticipated. As human resistance continued, the Caldron forces became more brutal. Civilian areas were bombed. Captured prisoners were executed. Cities were razed not for strategic value but for psychological impact. And humanity made absolutely sure every atrocity was documented and transmitted across the galaxy. In the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Vexnar played the footage for the assembled delegates. Images of alien soldiers gunning down unarmed civilians. Videos of orbital bombardments targeting hospitals and schools. Recordings of human captives being tortured for intelligence. This is what the Caldron Empire does to a developing species, Vexnar announced. This is what they call conquest. I ask the Council, is this who we are? Is this what our civilization stands for? Council Prime Yeloth watched the footage with crystalline tears forming on her face. We were warned. We were told the humans were dangerous and we dismissed them. We were told the Empire would commit atrocities and we chose neutrality. How many more must die before we act? The vote was swift. The Galactic Council authorized military intervention. Not to save humanity, but to preserve the Council's own moral authority. If they allowed the Empire to exterminate a developing species, their entire political structure would become meaningless. Emperor Draxus received the news while planning the final assault on Earth's major population centers. He read the Council's ultimatum with rage and disbelief. They dare threaten me. Over these primitives, Veltor, who had been expecting this, spoke quietly. Sire, the Council is deploying 17 enforcement fleets. They will arrive in 12 hours. If we do not cease hostilities, we will face war with the entire galactic community. Then we will kill the humans before they arrive, Draxus started to say. Order all ships to no, Veltor interrupted. For the first time in his career, he directly countermanded his emperor. No, sire, we have lost. Not militarily, but politically. The humans have won by making us look like monsters to the entire galaxy. Draxus wanted to order Veltor executed, and wanted to burn Earth to bedrock, and wanted to prove that the Empire could not be defeated by primitive apes with crude technology. But he was emperor because he understood power, and power meant knowing when to retreat. Cease all offensive operations, he said, and each word felt like swallowing broken glass. Contact Earth. Offer terms. The transmission arrived at Colorado Command Center 2 hours later. Admiral Brennan, running on stimulants and pure determination, listened to the alien emperor's words with cold satisfaction. On behalf of the Caldron Empire, I offer cessation of hostilities. We will withdraw our forces from your system. In exchange, you will not pursue our ships, and you will advocate to the Galactic Council for leniency regarding our conduct during this conflict. Kate looked at her staff. What do we know about the Council's enforcement fleets? Lieutenant Grant pulled up the data Oracle had compiled. They are real, and they are coming. 17 fleets representing 12 different species. The Empire is genuinely afraid of Council intervention. Then we have leverage, General Brooks said. We can demand reparations and technology transfers and recognition of our sovereignty. Kate thought about the millions dead and the cities destroyed and the people who had sacrificed everything to buy humanity time to survive. She thought about Commander Morrison and Captain Ford's soldiers and Lieutenant Grant hacking alien systems with nothing but determination. She opened a channel to the Cauldron. Flagship, here are our terms. You will withdraw immediately. You will leave behind complete databases of your technology. You will provide reparations equal to 1% of your empire's total economic output for the next 10 years. You will recognize Earth and all its colonies as sovereign territory under Galactic Council protection, and you will broadcast an admission of war crimes to the entire galaxy. Silence stretched for long seconds. Then Emperor Draxus's voice returned, and it was tight with fury. You dare dictate terms to us. We could still obliterate your planet, but you will not, Kate replied calmly, because the Council fleets would arrive while you were doing it, and then you would face war with the entire galaxy. We are not just surviving anymore, Emperor. We are winning. The question is how much you are willing to lose before you admit it. Another silence. Then incredibly Draxus laughed. It was a bitter sound, but genuine. You are as dangerous as the Quilarians warned. Very well, Admiral Brennan. We accept your terms. The Empire withdraws. As the Cauldron fleet began its retreat, humanity watched from countless screens across the planet. People emerged from shelters to see alien ships departing and leaving behind wreckage and ruins, but also hope. 3 days later, the Galactic Council officially recognized Earth as a sovereign system under their protection. 12 species offered diplomatic relations. 5 offered military alliances. And every species in the galaxy now knew one fact with absolute certainty. Humans were dangerous. In the Colorado Command Center, Admiral Brennan stood at a window looking up at the stars. General Brooks joined her, and both of them were exhausted beyond measure. What happens now, he asked. Now we rebuild, Kate replied. We take the technology the Empire left behind and we advance ourselves by decades. We join the galactic community. We make sure no one ever underestimates us again, and if they try to invade again, Kate smiled grimly, then we will remind them why they should have listened to the Quilarians. 6 months after the war, the Horizon's Edge and its crew were finally rescued from their crippled ship. Commander Jake Morrison and Lieutenant Amy Chen and Lieutenant Ben Hayes and their 2 surviving crew members received humanity's highest honors. During the award ceremony, Jake was asked what he thought about Earth's future in the galaxy. He looked up at the stars and smiled. We spent so long thinking we were alone in the universe. Now we know we are not, and we have proven that we belong here among the stars. The aliens tried to warn each other about us. They called us dangerous. Maybe they are right. But if being dangerous means we refuse to surrender and refuse to die quietly, and refuse to accept anyone's judgment about our worth, he paused. Then I am proud humanity is dangerous.